Hey y'all, this is Lisa Zahiya and super excited to be back on the podcast. And we often talk about women and women in power, but the important thing that we're going to be doing in the next couple of podcasts is talking to awesome men and the kings in the world who are making change and following their own path. So today I'm super excited to be here with Ryan Spence, who I met through a mastermind group that we're both part of. So Ryan, I'm excited you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about what your business and your life looks like today?
Sure. Thanks, Lisa, for having me. Really happy to be here. So, yeah, today I am a life coach and author and also a speaker, and I help lawyers and corporate professionals. I help them gain clarity, boost their confidence, and build their courage so that they can stop living a life of lethargy and start living life lit. So, effectively living the life the way that they want to on their own terms.
Awesome. And this has not always been your path. So, sort of, what did your life look like in the before times? Like, a bunch of us who've sort of like gone out on our own, we have these before times. And what made you make that transition?
Sure. So I guess the clue is in who I help now. So I used to be a lawyer. I was a lawyer in BigLaw, which basically means one of the big international law firms. And I did that for 11 years. So I'm from the UK. You can probably tell from the accent. I started out in London and then moved out to Singapore and lived in Asia for 7 years. And I became a lawyer not for any big reasons of helping people or saving the world. I basically just wanted to make money. I worked in the music business for a number of years, which was my big love, my big passion, but never really kind of made enough money to support myself. So lawyers and accountants got paid first in music, and I was no good with numbers, so law it was. So that's kind of what happened. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it initially for the first few years. Moved to Singapore, thought, okay, I think this could work out for me, but never really asked myself if it's what I wanted. I just felt that it was something that I had to do. I was in a good place with a good career, good salary, good status, and my identity was a big law lawyer. So that's what I felt that I had to do.
Got it. So, was there a moment that you were like, forget this, I don't want to do this anymore? Or did you feel like it was a bit of a transition?
There was definitely a transition. I call it kind of like the long goodbye in the sense that I think the first time I seriously took the feelings that I had that this may not be right for me was shortly after having my first child, and kind of wanting to be around more, wanting to kind of have more flexibility, but not really feeling like I could. And then kind of looking ahead at people who are ahead of me, looking at the sort of partners and the leaders and thinking, is that the life that I want in the next few years for my life? But I ignored it because I felt that, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm in this place. I've got a family to support. I'm making good money. Like, you just suck it up. You don't have to enjoy your job. And that went on for years. I mean, I had a second child. My paternity leave got cancelled. I had to work paternity leave. I had holidays where I basically worked, which was most of the holidays, all of the things that you can kind of envisage being in a corporate environment. But I think the sort of final straw for me was Christmas 2018. I was on holiday in Bali, and we booked a villa with friends. And I got out of the airport into the cab, excited for the holiday, turn on my phone, and there's an email from a client that a deal that had been dead was now coming back to life, and they wanted to close the deal by the end of the year, which basically meant I was going to be working on yet another holiday. So awesome villa over Christmas. I was in between in the spare room working or thinking about the deal or drafting emails. And on the flight back, I just decided that I can't do this anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do, but something has to change. So that was the start of my personal development quest.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And this is an interesting thing I've been thinking about recently. Like, what did that feel like? Because I think our body knows and we know. So, like, what indications were there that, like, it's time for me to start changing that identity and looking towards what I actually want to do in the world?
Oh, I mean, the feeling is, I call it a feeling of lethargy. So there's a few things. There's that feeling of when you feel like you're going through the motions. We all have them. We have days like that where you get up and you're just not really feeling it, but you're just trying to get to the end of the day. But when those days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years, as they did for me, I really should have left far sooner than I did. I mean, it was about 5 years from really knowing I needed to get out to actually getting out. And that was because of fear. So I knew that it wasn't right for me, but because I didn't know what else I could do, and I didn't have the belief in myself that I could do anything else, I stuck around because the fear of doing the alternative, which was jumping into the unknown, was just too great and too scary to comprehend.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think that part of that, like, great unknown, you brought up earlier that being a lawyer gave you status and identity. And that's a huge part of our life. Like, how do I see myself in the world and what do I identify as? So can you talk to me a little bit about that journey? Because we have to essentially, like, say goodbye or let go of those things to move into what our heart wants.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it shouldn't be like that. But I think that for me and for a lot of people, when you get into these situations, into these positions, there is such a celebration from the people around you. And there is such a, you are now successful, that you buy into it and you buy into that way of doing it. And for me, how I see it is that you end up losing pieces of yourself because you're trying so hard to fit into this box, the box that wasn't really designed with you in mind, that you shed the bits of you that might make you a little bit different. You know, I mean, people might think you're a little bit weird, to try and find your way along this path. And that definitely happened for me. And I think that when you do that, you walk further and further away from who you are and further into the shoes of the identity that has been created for you. So there was huge fear for me, like who would I be if I wasn't this lawyer? When I go to networking events and people say, who are you? Or ask you what you do, it's like, my name's Ryan, I'm a lawyer at X firm. I mean, that's who I am. That's what I do. So who am I without that? So there's definitely a lot of sort of soul searching and exploration and self-inquiry around finding who I really was, not without being a lawyer, but also just without a job title. Like, what was important to me? What were my values? What was it that got me up in the morning and kind of made me excited about life?
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about this personal development journey. Where did you start? Where did you dive in? And what did that journey look like for you?
So I'd like to kind of have this sort of perfect thing. Like, I started reading this book and it changed my life, and then I went to this one that it didn't. It was very much like I suffered a lot from shiny object syndrome. So I kind of went into bookstores. I got all the books. Some I read, some were half read. I was never really sticking to one strategy. I'd go to YouTube. I'd go down the rabbit hole there. So it wasn't really productive in the sense of having a clear path of how to get from where I was to where I wanted to be. But it did give me an insight into that there was an alternative. There were other ways of living. There were other things that you could do. And there were other habits that I could cultivate. And so I initially set myself a challenge in January 2019 to just do something that was completely out of my comfort zone. And so I signed up for a boxing match and never really thought I'd get into the squad, and then did, and then started training, and then thought I was going to die, and then got myself a personal trainer who actually got me fit and ready for the fight. And mentally and physically, that was what I needed, because I think having that shock to the system, that real discomfort, kind of pulled me out of myself, but also showed me that I could do more than I thought I could do. And I think we all can do more than we think we could do. We get to the edge of that zone of discomfort and we stop with, like, this is too hard, I'm going to stop here. And actually, when we're there, we have so much more that we're capable of if we get ourselves in the right state to do that. So for me, that was a huge turning point. That got me back to my yoga practice, which I'd kind of been doing off and on to help me with the stresses of law, which then sent me on to my yoga retreat, where I had the time to sort of really deeply reflect. And I was like, yoga's really done a lot for me, and I kind of really want to move forward with that. And then again, that just opened my mind. I ended up hiring my first coach, who was an ex-colleague of mine. And so suddenly, because my mind was now open to the possibilities, I was now trying different things and also seeing that there was a whole different life open to me. And I just decided that I wanted to help other people have that awakening. I wanted other people in the position that I had been in who weren't happy to see that there was another way. They did have a choice. I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So then the next stage was just to kind of figure out, okay, what did I like and what were the ways that I could make that happen?
What was the day like when you left law? What did that feel like?
It was like, imagine you're carrying the biggest weight possible on your shoulders and somebody just kind of takes it off you and suddenly you stand upright and you have this big smile on your face. That's kind of how it was for me. Walking out of there for the last time, I still remember I just had this sort of big sort of grin on my face. And it was weird because 11 years and now I was actually walking out not to go to another job, but I just had this time to figure things out. And it was one of the best things that could have happened because even when I decided that I needed to leave, I was still looking at the idea of, well, okay, I could go to this law firm here, or I could go to this client here, and I could do all these other things because you've got to support yourself, you've got to support your family. But because of the way that it happened, and I ended up sort of getting the opportunity to be laid off, and I had some money and I had some time, I could just see this whole period in front of me where I was like free. It was freedom. It was just like, wow, now I can literally do anything, having been constrained for so long. So
Yeah.
yeah, I remember it, February 28th, 2020. It was a great day.
Amazing. And oh, and like what a time to get freed because then the whole world changed.
Yeah,
But that feeling to me when I've done it, it feels like just running down the street and being like, I can do whatever I want now.
yeah, and it's a good thing, but also it's a bit like wow because I didn't realize how much there was that I could do. I had no concept of this whole online business world. I had no concept of really of coaching, of online courses, of being able to sort of share your knowledge with people and have that be the way that you live. And so I was like almost like a kid in the candy store. I was like trying again, shiny object syndrome, trying all of these different things and diving in. But I needed to do that to get to a place where I could really get clear on how I wanted to move forward and how I wanted to help people. So I don't regret that time at all. It was great.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. So as far as identity and status, like I work with a lot of women and I'm curious about like the identity as a man leaving, this like I'm going to support my family profession. Like what was that like and how did you deal with that?
So again, I think that that status is what kept me where I was for so long.
Hmm.
I think once I'd kind of done the work to figure out who I was and what I wanted, that no longer became an issue because I knew the things that were important to me and I knew that where I was not fulfilling that. But I think even bigger than that, I also had a strong belief from the confidence that I built that I could figure things out. I think that when we're in these corporate jobs, one of the things that keeps us there obviously is the money. It's having this regular paycheck all the time
Hmm.
and this sort of salary coming into our bank account. And I think that to get from there to get to where I am now, you have to have a strong belief that you have it within you to generate income from your
Hmm.
ideas, from the things that you create, that you can do that. And so once I had that belief, it just became a case of, well, I know I can figure it out. I mean, I'm fortunate that I have a skill as a lawyer. I can always contract if I need to bring in money here and there. I teach yoga. Do you know what I mean? I can make money there. I've got various ways that I can kind of bring income in. But it's not
Hmm.
a case now of just bringing in money for money's sake, of wanting to have this huge salary. It's a case of what do I need to do to allow me to live the life that I want to live, to allow me the freedom to do the things I want to do, to allow me to pick up my child from school and go out to the park and not feel I have to rush back to my desk. You know what I mean? To
Hmm.
allow me to take a month off when it's the school holidays and go travel. So it's those sort of questions and conversations. So the status then no longer becomes an issue because actually, would I rather hang out with my kids in the summer for a month somewhere on holiday, or would I rather have the status of a big law lawyer? Like, it's not really a question. And as long as I am generating enough or to kind of support the things that I need to support, that's all that matters.
100%. That's beautiful. It's almost like, to go back to that idea of carrying the boulders, it's like that's what identity and status gives us. Like, be the man or be the woman or whatever it is and do the things and be the lawyer. And it's like, if you just take your arms and lift them up, we're given so much freedom to choose who we want to be. So if you think about, so now Ryan has like discovered life, coaching. What are some of the key like principles or strategies that you live by that allow you to not pick up those boulders again, but really live the life on your own terms?
Sure. So the three things, the foundation of the coaching that I do and what I live by are the three C's, what I call the triple C method. So it's clarity, confidence, and courage. So with clarity, it's getting clear on who you are, what you want, and why you want it. So I kind of come back to that on a regular basis because it's easy to kind of get pulled away by the next shiny thing or the next strategy, you know what I mean, or the next idea that someone places in front of you. But I think when you're sort of rooted in the foundational of, okay, for example, my key value is autonomy, you know what I mean, then doing things that are going to keep you tied to a particular spot or in a particular position for too long, it becomes easier to say no to those things because they don't tie into your larger vision. So clarity is key. Confidence, so it's working on your belief, working on my belief sort of each day that you can do the things that you want to do. And a technique that I use is always looking back and sort of saying, when you say you can't do something, ask yourself, where's the evidence? Because we're very quick to say, oh, I can't do this because, but where's the evidence of that? Like, if you look back at where you were and look at where you are now, regardless of your position now, and look at the things that you've had to do or had to overcome to get to this point, there's so much that you have done and there's so much evidence supporting the fact that you can do hard things, that you can figure things out. So why is it that when you start to look forward at things which are bigger, that you tell yourself these stories without any evidence to support them? So that's another exercise that I do. And then the final one with courage is something that I call courage stacking. So I think when we look at our sort of big goals or the big things that we want to do or our big mission, it can be quite scary because of the things that we have to do to get to that point. But what I do and what I sort of do with my clients is sort of like, okay, that's the big thing. Okay, now let's break that down. What are the things that you have to do to sort of get there? So for me, I knew that when I wanted to help people, I had to be visible. So that involved sort of being visible on social media. I hated that. I was the guy in the Facebook group or the WhatsApp group who would maybe respond, but would never initiate because I'd be scared of nobody responding to me and that being that tumbleweed. But I had to kind of get comfortable with putting myself out there. And so I started with one post and it took me weeks to refine and write that post, but it took one post and I put that out and nobody died. Nothing bad happened. Okay. So then I did the next one. Then I did the next one. And then you slowly start to sort of build this courage muscle. Then I moved on to video. Okay, I need to do videos. Okay, I set myself a 30-day video challenge. And then it's like, okay, I need to write more. So whatever it is, it's breaking it down, starting with the least scary thing, doing that, and then moving to the next thing. And then keep looking back and sort of seeing the thing that you thought was really scary before. Actually, you're doing that without even thinking now. So as you progress up this ladder to where you want to get to, those things will become easier. And you also have the evidence that you've done hard things before to get there.
Amazing. So what's next in your courage stacking? What's next for Ryan? What challenges are you giving yourself? And what are you sort of looking to do next with your coaching practice?
Sure. So the next big challenge is, well, it's kind of done, but it's not in the world yet, is my book. So I wrote a book. Everyone says they want to write a book. I said it for many, many years and never done it. And I just did it. And so it's done. I'm receiving the proof copy shortly and it's coming out in April. So that's took a lot of courage. The writing, yes, but it's more the fact of presenting your idea, your thesis, your methodology to the world in this book form it's a huge thing. So I mean, initial responses have been favorable, but like once it's sort of out in the world, and I think it's just things like ex-colleagues, people who knew you in a different life and kind of seeing you as a different world. It's it's that was definitely a sort of process of courage stacking. So really excited for that and getting out and promoting that and talking about that. And I've just relaunched my podcast, which I loved. I put it on hold while I relocated. My whole sort of identity and vision changed. So I've now kind of relaunched it to kind of go along with the book. And that's called the Triple C Project. So as you can probably see, everything's around the Triple C. I'm really big on clarity, confidence, courage. I just feel that they are such key pillars to what got me from where I was to where I am now. That once you have those, all the other strands of personal development kind of flow off them. If you have that strong foundation of those three, you're going to go far.
Awesome. I love that. Ryan, what's inspiring you right now?
Oh, big question. I'm inspired. So you alluded to where we met. We met in this sort of mastermind that we're both in. And I think that really inspires me because when I was getting to the end of sort of 2021, I felt that I'd come a long way in terms of business, in terms of my vision and what I wanted to do. But what I lacked was the support of people around me. I think it's hard for anyone who's not an entrepreneur to understand, to be able to be in a room, whether it's in real life or virtual, and to have people talk about their accomplishments gives you the sort of freedom to talk about your own accomplishments, but also to see what's possible and to be inspired, because there are things that you don't know if you don't know. So I think for me, being in that community and seeing so many people, but actually so many women and so many people who are not seen in these spaces, just smashing it, just doing so well, is really inspiring. And it's really the community that I was looking for. Because a lot of the personal development world, a lot of the sort of sales and marketing in the online world I saw just didn't resonate with me. And I feel that now I've kind of found my people, and I feel that just it's the Facebook group that I go into on a daily basis to kind of see what people are doing and what people have come up with. So I think for me, it's seeing other people who look like me, people who aren't or traditionally in these spaces, just smashing it and doing really well. That's really inspiring for me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I think when I started self-development, I was like, this is great, but I was like, this is the white men show.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I love this Facebook group that we're in for the mastermind that regularly people be like, oh, I just got a $10,000 speaking gig, or, you know, I'm doing 100,000 a month. And I'm like, I got to get up. I got to go do stuff. So I think that you really point to like, it's important to be in those spaces. And what I love about this space is like, it aligned, I'm hearing this from both of us, like with our values. What do we want to see in the world? But like I also think input equals output. So I need to not be the richest person in the room ever, the smartest. And I see all your books behind you, like constantly taking things in. So what I put out can be high quality.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, you've got to take in information. You've got to learn from people who have done things that you want to do, who have been in spaces that you want to be in. And I think for me, curiosity is a big thing for me. I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly listening to podcasts. My wife gets so annoyed because she'll be shouting me from the other end of the house and I can't hear her because I've got headphones in because I'm listening to a podcast. But for me, it's I need to take this in. I need to hear all of this stuff. And I mean, you then need to do something with that. I think a lot of people take in the information and don't then do things with it. But I think for me, it's taking that information, running it through my own filter, through my own lens, seeing, does this resonate with me? Do I agree with this? If I don't agree with it, why don't I agree with it? And how can I express that in a way that is going to resonate with other people? So yeah, for me, it's just you've got to be curious, and you've got to be prepared to be wrong, and you've got to welcome being in a space where you can make mistakes, and also where you can see people who will tell you that they've made the same mistake and can sort of say, this is how I got out of it, or this is what I did. It's invaluable. It's invaluable.
Yeah. But Ryan, if we add curiosity, there's a fourth C.
Yeah, no, don't get me started. Literally, I quote from this, like, I could add that. I think I seem to do things in threes. So I'm resistant.
I agree.
I'm resistant to adding. So maybe with curiosity, I have to come up with another 3C formula. We will see. But yeah, there are so many different sort of frameworks and ideas that I come up with which are threes. There's the 3Cs, there's the 3As, there's DID, there's IIA. So yeah, I just think I'm just the three guy now. That's what I'm going to be known as.
I'm all for it. Ryan, what a great story you have, and so much inspiration, and so well thought out, and so much inspiration for all of us to, like, the thing I really got out of talking to you is, like, every day I can think about, what am I carrying that I could put down?
Exactly.
Yeah. And we will include information about your book and how to find you now that you are fully out in the world. And I'm so grateful for you spending time with me today.
I thank you. Now I appreciate the time to chat, and it's always good to connect with people like you who are just doing these amazing things, and also putting so much good out into the world. I mean, podcasts like yours are what people go to and really get their inspiration from. And I know when I was in my old world, listening to people have conversations like this kind of started to help me really believe what was possible for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.